Good day, and welcome to Common Sense with Tom Schmitz. My guest today will be former Ocala Mayor Gerald Ergle, and we will discuss the city charter for the city of Ocala and the Feel Downtown initiative. But first, I need to let you, the audience, know that the views expressed on this show are those of the host and the guest only, and in no way reflect the thoughts or views of the city of Ocala, the CEP, the Power Plant Business Incubator, or Marion County. Coming up, like I said, our guest will be Gerald Ergle. But first, While You Were Sleeping. While You Were Sleeping is brought to you by the Riley Arts Center, the premier performing arts center in our area for concerts, dance events, and comedy events. The Riley has something for everyone. You can find an updated calendar at www.rileyartscenter.com. Trying to end the debate about the possibility of fracking in Florida, a bipartisan group of lawmakers that include Senator Keith Perry on Tuesday backed a proposed ban on the controversial method of drilling for oil known as fracking. The bill is concise and straightforward. It bans fracking on all types in Florida, said Senator Dana Young, a Tampa Republican, who filed the bill on Tuesday. Perry, newly elected to District 8 seat that is in Alachua, Putnam, and northern Marion counties, supported a bill last year as a state representative that he described as a fracking ban that would have created a regulatory framework for fracking in the state. The House passed that measure, which died in the Senate amid widespread opposition. That was While You Were Sleeping, brought to you by the Riley Arts Center. Remember, you can get an up-to-the-minute calendar of events at the Riley Arts Center by going to www.rileyartscenter.com. And now with that, I'd like to welcome in my guest, former mayor of the city of Ocala, Gerald Ergle. Mayor Ergle, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Tom. Thank you. Nice to be with you.
Let's get right into this and talk about the city charter. I know you have refreshed yourself with the city charter. Explain to people what kind of government we operate under with the city charter, as opposed. I know the word and I can't bring it up in my mind right now.
Well, look,
it's not a constitutional.
Yeah. Well, Ocala operates under a city charter.
Right.
Many cities and most counties operate under state
Right.
statute. They're creatures of the state, and Ocala is a creature of a charter that we formed a charter and we created the city of Ocala.
And there's set rules in the charter and set guidelines of who oversees what. Like it's a weak mayor system. The mayor does not have, say, the power like Buddy Dyer does in Orange County or something.
That is
correct. The mayor
correct.
here is oversees the police department.
That is correct.
And has a non-vote in city council meetings, but can veto the city council. But then they can override his veto with a
four-fifths
majority
yes,
vote.
Right. Correct.
That's my understanding.
All of that is correct. You're
So,
exactly right.
With that being said, let's go back to the last city council meeting.
And another thing that's really different in the Ocala charter and the setup is that the mayor, it's a weak mayor, but still the charter gives the mayor the oversight and control of the police department, which is different from most cities. Usually where you have a weak mayor, the city council is in control of all of the city departments. But in Ocala, for whatever reason, we don't know that. I guess it was maybe a separation of power type issue that they thought would be good back in the late 1800s when the charter was written. I assume that's right, but that's a little different from most cities.
Yeah, most when in a weak mayor system, the mayor is more of a ceremonial position that is a cheerleader for the community, for lack of a better term.
That is correct, and the charter here in Ocala says that the mayor is recognized as a ceremonial head of the city, and in control of the police department, and that's really and can veto ordinances, as you said. That's really specified in the charter for the duties of the mayor.
Now, let's go back to the last city council meeting.
Okay.
There was a controversial subject. The reinstatement, or some people say controversial, the reinstatement vote for reinstating Chief Greg Graham back to his post as the chief of police, and Rodney Smith, then, who was acting chief, would then go back to his position as deputy chief. And it was because of some allegations that had been made 5 months ago and a complaint that had been made public by a lawyer out of Gainesville, Bobby Frank, who was representing some of the people involved in the complaint. And there was a big public what's the word I'm looking for here from South Georgia that can be nice? Brouhaha.
Yeah. Okay.
That took place at City Council at that time. The chief of police, Greg Graham, said he would take a leave of absence, a voluntary leave of absence while this investigation played out. Subsequently, the investigation was completed, the results turned over to the mayor, who then returned the results over to the City Council, that all the complaints were found to be unfounded, either because they just weren't true or there was so much conflicting evidence, so much conflicting testimony, you didn't know which was right, which was wrong. Is that a fair assessment of what you understand took place?
I think that's correct, and I didn't read the report, so all I know about it is what I read in the paper and heard on the news media. But yes, I would say from what I heard and that night at the council meeting, that would be a true assessment.
Now, the vote to reinstate the police chief came up, and that vote went 5-0 to reinstate.
Correct.
That was a complete 5-0. Now, according to the city charter, before we get into what would happen next in the meeting, according to the city charter, would it be your understanding as a former city councilman and a former mayor that once the council reinstated Greg Graham to police chief, then any subsequent discipline the chief would face would come from the person that oversees the police department directly, the mayor of Ocala?
The mayor can bring charges.
Right.
The council can also bring charges.
Right.
Yeah. So,
But I mean,
even,
without charges being brought, could the mayor have disciplined the chief of police because he oversees the police department?
yes, the mayor could have. He could have suspended him for a week or whatever if he chose to. Yes.
Right. Because that in the charter, he oversees the police
Right.
department. That's within his duties
Right.
as the mayor of Ocala.
Right.
So, well, subsequently, one of the city council members, member Mary Sue Rich, made a motion to suspend the chief without pay for 30 days as punishment for these allegations that were unfounded. I was in the chamber. I thought, well, I don't think the city charter allows her to do that. And then, of course, the city attorney, Mr. Gilligan, explained to Miss Rich the way she had worded her motion. She didn't have the ability to do it that way.
Right. Council has the prerogative, but a council person can't do it unless it's brought. The charges are brought, come before council, hearings are conducted, and then council decides by a majority vote to inflict whatever that punishment may be. So the ability is there, but it has to go through the process.
So then it was amended, and they had a vote after some discussion. They had a vote
Right.
3-2 not to suspend the chief for 30 days without pay.
Right.
In your opinion, as a member of this community, was that the correct decision in your opinion, not to suspend the chief for 30 days without pay?
Yes, that would be. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right.
Yes.
As a citizen, you thought that was the right
correct.
decision the council made.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you about this whole situation is: you're a lifelong Ocala.
Right.
This is your home. You served as a deputy sheriff here. You served as a civil servant. You served as an elected official. You served as mayor. And as a contractor, a building contractor, you've overseen a lot of the progress that Ocala's made in the last 30, 40 years.
Absolutely.
That's safe. That's a very safe assessment.
Yeah.
As a citizen of this town, do you just at times get tired of some of the embarrassment that we seem to have to endure through situations like this?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is. Those things make headlines, and it's not good for the community. But it's unfortunate. But those things happen, and we wish they wouldn't. We wish people would think a little bit before they make decisions to do some things they do. But yeah. It's embarrassing, some of the things that's happened in the community over the last 4 or 5 years.
The last 4 or 5, I've talked to people. I had a friend of mine that lives in Tallahassee, called me on the phone and said, "What in the hell is going on down there?
That's true.
Your sheriff's been indicted. The chief of police is now making headlines." And I said, "Well, let me explain something to you. The headline, chief of police, just let that story play out."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, what about the sheriff being indicted?" I said, let's think about this. Not only was the sheriff indicted, not only was the chief suspended while allegations look, but less than 5 years ago, another very, very good candidate for sheriff who everybody thought was the shoe-in to win left the race in disgrace, and that was a whole fiasco. So our law enforcement's kind of been in a fiasco for the last 4 or 5 years.
I won't say our law enforcement, the police,
The
heads of the agencies
Yeah.
have been in trouble for the last 4 or 5 years.
No, the men and women
Yeah.
in blue and green do a fabulous job.
They
They've
do.
not been in a fiasco.
Absolutely.
The heads of the
The heads of the
organizations
organization
have been a little iffy
Right,
at times.
absolutely.
Now, you being a former deputy and also a city councilman, and all, that's a unique balance that the city council and the county commission have to keep with the heads of these departments to make sure the men and women who are on the ground on a day-to-day basis don't have to deal with that kind of embarrassment on a regular basis.
True, yeah.
Because you know as well as I do, you were a deputy. The sheriff isn't the one that the public says, you part of that department that's got that man that lies and everything. That's something a deputy on the ground has to hear when they go out on a call or something.
Absolutely.
Now, I couldn't fathom how I would deal with that as a deputy.
Well, number one, you hold your head high and you move forward and do your job as you are sworn to do. And that's what happens. I mean, I've never seen a deputy sheriff or policeman that shirked their duty because the head of the department was in trouble. You know, they move forward and do what they have sworn to do when they were hired to be a police officer or a law enforcement officer.
Now, you were a law enforcement officer 40 years ago?
In the 60s.
In the 60s,
Yeah.
40, 50 years
Yeah,
ago?
50 years ago.
How did you ever foresee when you were a deputy sheriff in the 60s? Did you ever foresee the sprawling community that you would now be a part of and a player in that is Ocala in 2017?
Not really. Not really. You know, and they talk about the shortage of officers now, and I can remember many, many nights there was only one deputy sheriff covered this entire county. You know,
The 5th largest county in the
Yeah,
state.
yeah,
There were many nights.
yeah.
Just one guy was on. One
yeah,
guy
yeah.
because back then women didn't really serve. There were some women.
oh, there were no
Right.
police ladies
No,
at that time.
Right.
No.
And so one deputy sheriff, the entire county.
Absolutely.
So if you had a call in Citron, then you had a call in Wearsdale, that's a pretty good drive if you were the only deputy on.
Which happened. That
I'm
happened.
sure it happened.
Yeah. And you know, there would be times I can remember as you would drive through the city of Ocala, which was a little burg, you might say back in those days, depending on the call, but you might call your radio operator and say, have the police department have someone on the south side or the north side in case I need some help.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, and you talk about how Ocala was a burg. I don't remember, of course, the 60s in Ocala. I was born in 66, but we vacationed here from the time I was 3 years old, 1969, till Six Gun Territory, not closed, but 78 or 79, when it started its downward turn towards closing. We came every year, stayed at the Holiday Inn, which is now the Days Inn with the Denny's, but it was the Holiday Inn. We stayed there, and I remember that Mama would say, well, come on, kids, it's Wednesday of our vacation week. We're gonna go to Ocala to go to Morrison's.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, the kids, of course, our perspective on how far things are way messed up.
Yeah.
But I remember that we had to drive through the country that I thought was the country to get from Silver Springs to Morrison's because the area between 36th Avenue and Silver Springs wasn't developed like it is now.
It was country. That's exactly right.
You know,
Yeah.
and that was in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine some of the. I mean, it was all county, pretty much in the 60s. There were little Denell and Bellevue, Ocala, but they weren't connected like because now it seems like I can get to Bellevue from Ocala to Bellevue in about 8 minutes, but not really. But where the development of Ocala ends and development of Bellevue comes together, it's probably 5-8 minutes apart.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be that way.
Yeah, back in the 60s, you know, anything south of 17th Street, there was hardly anything there from there to Bellevue. You know, there was not much. The Ocala Drive-In was way off out in the country there. you know, but other than that, there was not a lot down there between.
I always wondered why the drive-in was out there. See, now in the 50s and 60s, that'd have been a good place for the drive-in.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was a great place. Then, yeah.
Take you a 57 Bel Air, get back there, put your little speaker up on it.
Yeah.
You'd have a Olivia Newton-John, John Travolta moment at the drive-in out there.
And you mentioned Silver Springs, and I've always found it kind of interesting that Silver Springs was such a family-oriented destination back in the early days until the owners of the Springs had convinced the county and the city that no alcoholic beverage should be served along the route from Ocala to Silver Springs. And that didn't change up until probably the early 70s.
Well, I know that it must have been because my dad was inclined to think it was still that way. We would come, when we came from Jacksonville, we'd bring 2 vehicles. One vehicle would have my mom and my 2 sisters and a little bit of luggage. Then my dad and I would come in the truck because the truck carried most of the luggage and 4 coolers full of beer.
Yeah, okay. He wanted to be sure.
He was going to make
Yeah.
sure he had beer for the week.
There you go.
So, and I guess that was because he was prone to know that he couldn't get beer up and down the strip there.
Right.
And by the way, people don't realize, some people that may be new to the area or just not born in that time may not realize between Ocala and Silver Springs, all those motels and hotels you see that were there, the little single-story motels that now people think are where homeless people staying off, those were vibrant motels that were the lifeblood of this economy.
Absolutely. Yep. And Silver Springs kept them alive during those days. Yeah.
Now, with that being in mind, let's talk about the lifeblood of Ocala now.
Okay.
I know when I started with Buddy Martin 6 years ago on a little radio show called The Voice of Ocala, which you have been a guest on many times.
Many times.
Buddy was then talking with City Councilman Daniel Owen. They were walking downtown around Christmas time. And they were walking, looking at the lights and everything. And there had been this big push. You were on the Save the Marion committee to save an iconic movie theater in our downtown area, which, by the way, is vital to our downtown area with the Silver Springs International Film Festival, which you're on that board.
Absolutely.
Is there any boards you're not on, Gerald?
Oh yeah, I'm not on many anymore. I've pretty well called it out.
But so Daniel stopped Buddy and said, Buddy, look around. Can you feel that? Buddy and Daniel took in the moment and everything. Well, they told Tito Comas about the moment. Well, then a few weeks later, over a bottle of red wine, Tito and his wife and Brendan Martin, Buddy's son, were sitting around, and they came up with a slogan called Feel Downtown.
Feel downtown. Yeah.
Now, that slogan embodies what's going on downtown, in my opinion, because it's a living, breathing entity to me downtown. And you've had an integral part in seeing some of that progress. How do you feel about where downtown was and where downtown is and where it's progressing towards?
Well, I'm excited because, you know, when I got on council in the early 70s, there was hardly anything.
It was boarded up, wasn't it?
Well, a lot of it was boarded up, yeah. And then the mall, first Searstown opened at 25th and 25th and the Boulevard. Well, that took Sears and from downtown, which was a big blow, and then the mall opened, which then took Belk Lindsay and Penny's, and you know, and then shortly thereafter, the smaller stores like Molliver's clothing store, which was an iconic location for years and years, then it finally closed down. But so yeah, I've seen downtown from when I grew up be, you know, everything that you needed. Because we lived in Citra, came to town pretty much every Saturday, and everything that you needed, from attorneys to grocery stores to banks, car dealerships, it was all between the S-curve and the railroad track. That was pretty much it.
Everything, with car lots, Western Auto.
Yeah.
People, one of my favorite stores growing up as a kid, Western Auto, it was downtown, it was all downtown.
In fact, Mike Finn and I were looking at an old map of downtown, and we really couldn't date it because there was no dates, but there were 5 grocery stores within 2 blocks of the square.
And it's something we desperately need, in my opinion, downtown right now.
We do need a grocery store in the downtown area. We really do.
So now you're a retired contractor.
Yes.
But you were brought back out of retirement for a special project. Tell us about that project.
Yeah, Bernadette Castro, they have the Castro building, which is the #1 professional center downtown, and they wanted to remodel it, you know, bring it up to date a little bit. And she had told me 3 years ago, I guess, that they were going to do it. And asked me if I'd be interested, and of course I was, because I'm a downtown guy and I thought it'd be nice to be involved, and so that's the way I got involved in that. And they redid the look of the outside, and they're in the process now of putting new tenants on the first floor.
Speaking of tenants downtown, in your opinion, because you have been a legislator here in our community, is tenants in the downtown area a must to keep the downtown area progressing towards the look and feel we want? Are people living down there so it has a life, or is that necessary, or is it vibrant enough? Even though there are some people moving down there, is it vibrant enough without tenants, or are tenants something that have to be a part of the inclusion of downtown?
I think that for a downtown to thrive, you have to have people living in the downtown area. You have to have activity all day and most of the night. And to do that, you need people that live there. Angie Lewis, whom you know, of course,
416 East 14th
she's
Street.
moved downtown, and she said it's great. She said, I love it. She said, we walk to most everything we want to do. We walk there now. And of course, Angie may ride her bicycle if she needs to, but it's great to be close downtown. Now, folks my age, probably not many of us would want to move downtown now, but I can see how the younger people would really love to be downtown, and that creates a vibrant area when you got people. Now, as you get more people moving in there, that grocery store will come, and I think that what I think we need, and I don't know, it's the chicken and the egg process, but we need some more retail downtown. Something that will bring people downtown from 8 or 9 in the morning until closing time in the evening, and then the restaurants take over in the evening and bring people downtown.
Now,
we need all of it.
Is it the design of the building you worked on? There's some retail that's going into that building. Plus, if the hotel, once it's built, I know there's plans for retail in the hotel. So there are going to be some more avenues for retail to come downtown.
Absolutely.
Now, what do you say to the people that say, that's great, feel downtown, wonderful, but I live in the 200 corridor. Mm-hmm. I live in East Ocala. Mm-hmm. I live in West Ocala. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of the city doing all this field downtown. Why don't they come over here and fill West Ocala, where we have buildings that are run down, and we need improvement over here? What do you say to people like that?
Well, I say that's true. That's absolutely true. No area should be neglected. But, the heart of anything has to be in good condition, or the rest of it doesn't thrive either. And that's the way I look at downtown. That's the center. That's where we all started, was in downtown Ocala. And I think that it needs to be have attention paid to it, and it needs to move forward, which has been, we've been working on it. We worked on it on council ever since the day I got on there in the early 70s. And you would take it to a point and then it would stop because it wasn't ready. But now I think downtown Ocala is ready for most anything that someone wants to come and put down there. The hotel, I think, is a classic example. The hotel is supposed to break ground somewhere in June, I think. And they're moving forward with that. I saw the new rendering the other day. It's absolutely beautiful.
Are we ever going to be able to, as a community, convince people that 40, Silver Springs Boulevard, State Road 40, that you can cross it safely and you could do things on the north side of the boulevard? Because that's been something that I know you as a legislator was on the city council, and the council now, and probably councils to come, one of the biggest arguments is, and I don't want to, it's hard to cross. I guess for some reason our brain shut off when it goes to pushing that little button for the crosswalk, because I've lived in major U.S. cities where crosswalks are plenty to get across a major thoroughfare.
Well, I have never subscribed to the fact that Boulevard was a glass wall. I mean, that's ridiculous for me to even think that we think that. Ocala was a small town, and it just needs something on the north side of the boulevard.
The boulevard didn't used to separate vibrant from
No,
non-vibrant.
no,
North side of the boulevard, that the Ocala Hotel sits there.
Yeah.
The Ocala National Bank,
Yeah.
that was the Ocala Hotel. I mean, where I started radio at WMOP, that at one time was a fantastic car lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, the north side of that town, of the downtown area, used to be very vibrant.
Like I said, from the S-curve to the railroad track was Ocala. And over the years, as things moved out, a lot of the retail and the malls and the shopping centers and most of the retail up there moved out. And so it left the north side rather bare. And, the city now is working diligently trying to do some improvements and to help get the north side of the boulevard, moving in the right direction. But, one thing that I would like to point out is people talk about spending money downtown. There is a special taxing district for downtown. And there are 3 circles that are drawn around the square that go all the way out as far as, I think it goes all the way to the S-curve. And those circles pay an additional tax to what everyone else in the city pays. And a lot of the money that's spent downtown comes from that special taxing for that downtown
The Magnolia
area.
district pays it, the downtown area pays it. I mean,
That particular district I'm talking about doesn't quite go up to the railroad track.
Right.
But that's a whole different deal. That's
But
the
they
tax.
have it, right.
That's tax increment financing up there, which is monies that come from improvements that have been made that stays in the area, which is also a good thing, I think. But when people, and you hear people occasionally say, well, I don't want them spending my tax money downtown. I live in East Ocala, or I live out on 200. And a lot of the money that's spent is paid for by the people downtown. It's not general tax dollars.
it's generated from downtown
Right.
and from the people who do
That's
business
correct,
in
yeah.
downtown and own businesses
Correct.
in downtown.
Yes, correct.
Right. I have a special meeting today, and I want to bring this up as we close the show. I have a special meeting today. County Commissioner Michelle Stone,
Yes.
myself, and former candidate for County Commissioner Anthony James will be going to do a walkthrough of the Skill Day Center
Great.
that Catherine and Calvin Jones run over in West Ocala. Now, I know you've known the Jones for a very long time.
Long time.
From a different perspective, because they've heard Catherine and Calvin's perspective, as a person that's known Catherine and Calvin for a long time, how important is the job they're doing in West Ocala to the success of that community?
Oh, it's uppermost. It's fantastic. And what I love to see now is the children, the kids, boys and girls that have gone through the Skill Day
success
Center.
stories.
The success stories that have gone through there, gone to college, and are now extremely productive citizens.
Master's degrees, doctors.
Absolutely.
There are
And,
doctors that have come out of that program.
And it's pretty safe to say, had it not been for the Skill Day Center, they would not be where they are today. And they will readily tell you that.
Hard to believe they operate on $25,000 a year.
Well, it's hard to believe that they even are operating because of from when they started. I mean, I remember when they had the old house in Busby Quarters. I mean, we were out there constantly trying to see what we could do to help keep the drug dealers out. And
Well,
Calvin had his gun.
He ran them off the first time.
I was going to say he had his gun sitting right there. He was ready for
He
him.
told him that. He told the story on the show here. He said, "I went with the good book in one hand, the gun in the
That's
other
it.
hand, and said."
Yeah.
I know where my God's going to put me.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
if you go with me, where are you going?
Yeah.
And they told him he was crazy. He could have the house.
No, but that's a couple who truly has devoted their lives to the betterment of the young people in that area.
Of our community on whole. They're a benefit
Yeah.
to the community of Marion County, not
Yeah.
just the city of Ocala, but to Marion County and the state of Florida, and hey, the United States of America,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
the contributions they've done to the youth in our community.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, thanks so much for coming by, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
It's always a pleasure.
Gerald Ergle has been our guest. And now this day in history. This day in history is brought to you by KT Entertainment. If you have a wedding reception, a birthday party, or any private gathering that you need musical entertainment, call KT Entertainment at 352-512-2611 or find them on the web at ktforfun.com. That's KT, the number 4, fun.com, or on Facebook at KT Entertainment. On this day in history in 1787, small farmers in Springfield, Massachusetts, led by Daniel Shays, revolt against tax laws. Federal troops break up the protesters of what becomes known as the Shays Rebellion, one of the first times the federal government of the United States got called to the carpet by its citizens. I think we just did that again in this election. But that's what happened on this day in history, brought to you by KT Entertainment. I'd like to thank again my guest, Gerald Ergle, for joining us today. For all the people behind the scenes pushing all the right buttons, I'm Tom Schmitz. Have a great day, everyone.